I'm getting ready to give you just a little insight of who I really am. Um, First of all, people act like they don't know me at all, but they tell people they know who I am. They are sure that they know everything about me that there is to know. When I was 19, I went to beauty school to be a hairdresser. 19 years old, went to beauty school to be a hairdresser and graduated successfully. I worked part time as a hairdresser after the first 5 years of working, mainly because I was in an automobile accident where I was in critical condition and given a huge hospital bill. And because I was given that big hospital bill, I decided that I needed insurance. So, medical insurance. So, of course, I went to work in a factory that supplied me with benefits. If my face looks full and I look full, it's because I have been battling a cold. And I didn't have a cold 4 days ago, had no symptoms of it. For the last 3 or 4 days, I've had something that would be best explained as pneumonia. A lot of congestion, a lot of coughing, and a lot of blowing my nose. After going to beauty school in 1979 and graduating, 78, 79 and graduating, I worked as a hairdresser for about 20 years, but I worked in a factory full time for 12 and a half years at one location. And then I started out making $3.25 an hour in a factory so I could have the benefits there and work part time as a hairdresser. And I made as much money working part time as a hairdresser as I made working full time in the factory. After 12 and a half years, I went to a full time factory job at a factory that paid $19 an hour, where I worked for 5 years. After 4 years, my shoulder, my rotator cuff, got a bone spur in it, and a doctor operated on my arm. And to this day, I still have pain in my arm because of that bone spur. Well, it wasn't just that, I had compressed vertebrae in my neck that caused my arm, elbow, and wrist to go numb if I held power tools in my hand. And the doctor looked at my hand, and most people think because I'm big that my hands are huge. And to be honest with you, my ring size is 7. Even at my weight, my ring size is 7. The regular ring size. So it's not like I'm big boned. As a matter of fact, my hands are usually smaller than a lot of people. I mean, I've stood next to 90-pound women that were 5'1", and when we've held our hands up to each other, their hands have been like a, a quarter of an inch longer than mine. So I have small hands, and that's basically a sign of strength is when your hands and wrists are real thick. Well, they look thick here, but actually my hands and wrists are small. And after I did that, I went on to obtain my insurance license so I could sell insurance with my aunt. And I did work for Aflac for quite a long time. And I worked with them on and off for about 10 years. And now, mind you, I sold insurance part time, worked in did hair part time, and I was a hairdresser part time, sold insurance part time, and worked full time in a factory. So for at least 10 years, I had 3 jobs: insurance, uh, a hairstylist, and a full time factory worker. So here are some of my awards through AFLAC. fast start where I achieved sales awards. That's one. Here's another one. And I have another one in here that is paper, in paper form. And after I had my injury to my shoulder while working at one of the factories, I went to IUPUI and got a certificate in computer. Let's see, it's let me see here. It is a crash course using the PC. And basically, what that was I wanted to learn how to operate the personal computer without somebody else having to tell me how to turn it on and turn it off. So I went and took a crash course in PC. And see if I can find somewhere in here in this paper. Oh, here it is. Here is the state of Indiana. This is my insurance, where I passed the insurance board and was licensed. And from there, when I did the crash course in PC, that was in 1989 to 1999. When I took the crash course in PC was 2001. I also, at the same time, went to school at a business that I worked at, which was car sales. And I took Zig Ziglar's 2-week crash course in automobile sales. Well, at the same time I was doing that, I went to school to sell real estate. And I was licensed as a real estate agent for 10 years, though my license was held for like 3 years at one location without me being actually active because it's extremely expensive to get started in insurance. I say it's extremely expensive. It was for me because you have to remember that even though I had been to college to be a hairstylist and the upkeep of that license was $40 every 3 or 4 years, and that didn't include the $200 or $300 that I had to spend for continuing education to maintain that. But getting started in real estate school, not only did I have to pay for the education, but it costs like $1,200 to join MIBOR. And if I wanted, or it was either, I think it was $750 to join MIBOR back when I started. And then if I went to sell real estate for Carpenters, which was a well-known uh, real estate agency, they charged you $1,200. Basically, it was your MIBOR fee and to buy the gold jacket that you have to wear. And I sold at my license stayed in holding at a couple of different at one real estate agency for a while, but I went kind of active, but I had no floor time because I had not sold a house. Well, then I had a cousin. Well, she's like my third cousin or second cousin. Her and her husband owned a business, and they had me come in one day a week and sit in the office all day long, which is unheard of when you start out in real estate to have an 8-hour shift. But they were getting maybe 10 calls a week and had 7 agents in there. So it was a very small company. And I got a lot of calls that I forwarded to other people. And I worked with one couple to sell them a house, and they went and bought the house from the man who told me a lot of people get their licenses to sell real estate, but very few of them ever sell a house. Very few of them ever sell a house. Well, in 2007, I lost a job that I had after getting all this education in sales. I lost the job to a girl who had nothing more than a high school diploma. And it was a $65,000 a year job. All the time they were switching our identities so it looked like she had the experience because they wanted her into a $65,000 a year job and me to take less. And I worked with a group of people where none of them had any college experience, and they wanted to get rid of the people with college education because they feared that they might be replaced because it was such a high paying job with people with college education. Now I made $3.25 an hour. I worked part time as a hairdresser uh, for maybe 5 or 10 years, and at this, I was making about $12,000 to $15,000 between the two jobs. Um, and I had a sister that was making $20,000 a year working as an assistant manager at a dress shop, and she went on to become a general manager of a store that was brought here locally. And her husband got a job where he was a manager at a lumber company making 30. So they made $50,000 between the two of them, and I had more education than either one of them, and I was making less money than either one of them. Together they were making 50, and I was lucky to make 15,000 a year. And that was back in 1979, 80, 81 to 83. Probably on into, let me think, I started in the factory in 1983. So that would have even been beyond that. That would have been 83 to 90. She has always made more money than me, even though I have more education than she's ever had. And she finally went to college when she was 50 or close to 45 or something and got a bachelor's degree. And her husband has certification through the same community college that I have my associate's degree through. And he still has less education than me, and he just retired from Clarion Health. She retired from Eli Lilly after she got her bachelor's degree from Indiana University. So both of them have less education than I have combined when you put all my education in comparison to theirs. But they swear that theirs is more important than mine. So, hold on. So, anyway, in 2009, I took art lessons and I sent a letter and applied to be a commemorative stamp artist through the post office. And they denied me the first time, rejected it. The second time, they accepted it and put me on the list as a commemorative stamp artist, saying, if we have need for you, we'll let you know. I got my associate's degree from Ivy Tech in Bloomington, and this is the summer of 2010. I'm on the chancellor's list with a 4.0 grade point average. This was the award for being on the chancellor's list with a 4 grade point average. Spring of 2010, I was on the dean's list with a 3.5 to 3.99 grade point average. And see here, the fall of 2010, I was on the chancellor's list with a 4.0 grade point average. I was on the dean's list again in 2000 and I think it was 2011. This is June 11th, 2010. This was to announce that I was on the dean's list. But here's the associate's degree in general studies. And of course, I already have all the other sales education and experience. So then in 2018, I went back to college to make sure that my computer skills were up to date. This is my certification in Microsoft Office. And my required score was 700 on Microsoft Excel. And I got 700. Well, I was going to retake the test to see if I could do better because I had worked so hard on Word that I had not worked as much on Excel. And they literally told me not to come back, that I was an overachiever, that I had passed it. And there were people who had taken it 5 and 6 times who didn't even pass it the first time. This is Microsoft Word. And as you can see, if you look at the bars, they're in the center of the page. It was a required score of 700, and I scored 914 on it. So, I guess format text paragraph sections and the insert format graphic elements was where I scored lower than any place else. Here's the other award through AFLAC. Then through ACT, which is the Collegiate Assessment of Academic Proficiency Student Report, it said that I scored basically in the top 21% of local students in basic algebra skills, and I scored nationwide in the top 30%. And my writing skills were equal in 2 usage, mechanics, and rhetorical skills. So I scored in the top 34 or so percent. And while it seems like it was higher, there was a second part of the algebra that I hadn't scored on because I hadn't taken anything but a basic math course. This is the award from the Collegiate Board of Assessment for academic achievements in writing. And then, of course, my college transcripts, because they wanted me at 58 years old or 55 years old to go on to school at another college, basically being a lifelong student, while they gave jobs to people who graduated from high school. And because they had families, they didn't feel like they needed or should be wasting their time getting education. And this was the last Dean's List letter that I got, and it is dated August 21st, 2019. I went back to college to be a social worker. I took 4 classes in psychology, and they all said the same thing. The doctors are not allowed to assess you, treat you, or evaluate you without your permission. And that includes students who are trying to achieve the licensing. They are not allowed to treat you. Once you have told them to stop, they're supposed to stop. All 4 classes, the rules for psychology are the same. It is something that is done per your request. In other words, it's a luxury medicine, and it's not something that is necessary. So, anyway, I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, I'm on the dockets of the United States Supreme Court as a pro se litigant for myself when I sued a business from Greenwood who wrongfully terminated me. A manager working in the delivery department asked me to cook a candlelight dinner for him at my home by myself. He was going to, I told him I lived with my mom, and he said, well, get rid of her. I'm going to come over and you make me a candlelight dinner. Because I asked him to make a delivery on a day that deliveries were not normally made. But we were also told, before you let a customer walk, see if we can accommodate them. So we don't want to see customers leave. So, long story short, I I was trying to get um, him to make a delivery of furniture sales, and he told me I had to make a candlelight dinner for him alone, just the two of us in my home. And I told him no, and he said then I won't deliver it for you. When I complained, his team, the team that was part of his management team that he worked for, helped him by saying that that I was looking at this guy and it was my fault and all this, and everybody ganged up on me because he was so well liked that how dare I turn him down even for a candlelight dinner, when the fact of the matter is they weren't so sure that he wasn't too good for me. It comes down to the principles of the thing. And so basically, this was from Travelers Insurance because Bloomington Hospital and Bloomington Courts, Indiana University, and IU Health got involved in a situation where they accepted a bribe or a donation to the foundation of Bloomington Hospital and Indiana University. In turn, their students represented them in the case. The hospital said that there was something wrong with me and, and basically blamed me. And to be honest with you, when I took it to the U.S. District Court, they offered me a settlement of $20,000. But because it was a $65,000 a year job and I had all this college education and experience and was losing a job that I had worked for my whole life, was 40 years old, 45, and wanted to retire there, I sued them for age discrimination, race discrimination, sexual harassment, and basically it came down to I sued them for retaliation because they fired me because I made the complaint. And Bloomington Hospital sided with them. So this letter is from Travelers Insurance, which is Monroe County's malpractice insurance company, where the county commissioners had turned the bill that I sent them for what I should have been paid for my education, for the job, keeping the job, and what I lost. They turned it into their insurance to pay, plus damages that I was seeking as a result of them getting involved with the defendants instead of doing what they should have done. If they were healthcare workers, they should have been more concerned about my health than about um, what somebody else making a donation to them. And basically, it came down to this: the doctor did not evaluate me at IU Health. She said, from now on, we're not even going to evaluate you. We're going to judge you based solely on what other people tell us about you. She literally said, you better start kissing ass if you want a favorable return, because we're going to tell everybody that we're your doctors and there's something wrong with you. And we have to know every move you make. And to be honest, what they've done is they've been playing interference in that they interfere in anything where I seek justice. And it has never made sense to me why somebody would hate me so bad. But it comes down to money talks. And if I were in a union, the union would pay me back pay and front pay for losing a $65,000 a year job that I clearly was most educated for, more educated for than the person that took it away from me. And so it comes down to this: they um, they were never my doctors. They were treating whoever it was that tells on me, and I get in trouble because you know what? The whole justice system is weighting both sides fairly. And when I don't have a voice in court, when they don't listen to both sides of it, and I don't have a side in that courthouse, there's something wrong with the system. And it's not my fault. It's not me. Because I worked. I got off my ass and I actually worked to be wealthy and not ever have to experience homelessness. And this is the car that I sleep in. Because they want me to either take welfare, take the blame, let everybody else have what they want to give them instead of what they worked for, and me to take less than everybody else. You wonder why I'm upset and always saying things like I will never believe there's a God again. Because I got up off my ass and I worked for it. And somebody who laid down on her back and spread her legs and spit 5 kids out of her twat got a $65,000 a year job without having any college education whatsoever and without ever even trying to get a higher paying job. And they told me that I owed it to everybody else to help them, that I should want to help them. I cannot see how anyone would think that I would want to sleep in a car so someone else could have a nice home who did not have more education than me or as much education as I have. It makes no sense why that would be like me saying, I want to see you and your kids sleeping in your car. So I live in a house that's too big for me. I have too much room and I have more money than I could ever spend, and I waste it on expensive dinners and expensive food and doing what I want to and take lessons in this and do this, and we take vacations and we do this. And I took 4 or 5 vacations while I worked, and I went and I stayed in hotels. But the same sister who has less education than me, retired from Eli Lilly, would go to Myrtle Beach once a year as a family vacation. They owned a camping trailer and a boat, and they would go down to Lake Monroe every weekend. I took 5 vacations over the course of a 25-year work history, and the rest of the time I worked 2 and 3 jobs. And they literally switch our identities so whoever's supposed to get in trouble doesn't get in trouble, and I get the blame. So they said, you really need to stop playing the victim and let somebody else be the victim once in a while. And all I could think was, stop victimizing me, and I won't have to be the victim anymore. But I'm on the U.S. Supreme Court dockets under Cheryl D. Allen. I am a commemorative stamp artist. I've been in community theater, and I've been in a commercial for an automobile dealership and a print ad for a furniture store.